Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 126, recording on Sunday, November 6th, 2022. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And happy birthday, the actual birthday of co-host and the Lord of the Junk Universe, Sean Dwyer. Happy birthday, my friend.
Yes, thank you. It's, what better way to celebrate than with a new Game Junk?
What better way than to talk about VR?
Yeah, exactly.
You are all about VR. You live under the visor, or you claim to. Whether you actually do is a different story. But we had some big news with the PSVR2. We're going to talk about that. Really, we're just in a bit of a holdover until Ragnarok this week. We played a few games, but since it's your birthday, we got to talk VR. I don't know if Sony knew it was coming up or if we needed something to talk about, considering we didn't record in 2 weeks and there's still nothing to talk about. We really didn't miss much. So the PSVR 2 officially has a release date now. February 22nd, correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
2/22/2023. And we have prices. There's two versions. There's a base bundle with the hand motion controllers and the headset for $549.99 US, and a bundle with a digital download for the Horizon Call of the Mountain VR experience for $599.99. So, interesting price point. There was price increases to the Quest 2, which I assume is its main competitor, pretty recently. And they announced 11 new games as well, or they're not new for PlayStation VR, I suppose. The biggest one being the supermassive game that is very similar to Rush of Blood, but in the Man of Medan, or Dark Pictures anthology, I should say. An on-rails shooter in that world, which I assume Rush of Blood was a big seller on the initial PSVR, so I guess it caught me off guard because I didn't know that game was that horror-based, but it's really popular. I'm surprised by how many people I talk to that play those games, including younger kids sometimes too. So what did you guys think of the announcement? Sean, you are Mr. VR. Will you be picking up the PSVR 2? Why or why not?
Well, I guess I'm still waiting for a great reason to pick it up. Like, one of the things with the VR stuff is it's hard to sell. We've talked about this before with trailers. Like, you can't really tell like how much better the experience is going to be. And a lot of the games that they're talking about for launch are games that are already available for the Quest. So, that's a little bit of a detractor. But like we've talked about before, it's still a wired headset. That's kind of annoying. It's kind of pricey, but I guess like when you look at what the Quest is like what, $399 and $499, I think now. So it's like, I guess it's not that far off. But yeah, this is, looking at the specs, we were just talking before we started recording, it is kind of, from what I can tell, the kind of cutting edge VR headset currently, or it will be when it's released. It's beyond something like the Valve Index. We'll probably touch on the Quest Pro in a second. That is not even really aimed at gamers. It's not even really a gaming headset, which is weird. Well, and let's say with top of the line, I think when we consider that, it's from an internal perspective, like resolution of the cameras or the screen inside and the cameras, not so much about the comfort, ergonomics, charging capabilities. Like everything on the Meta Quest Pro seems to be pushing for nicer design rather than better performance. And the PSVR 2 seems to be a mild step up, but not as much as I thought it was going to be to honest.
Wait, you're talking about from PS1 or PSVR?
From the state of VR, I guess. Okay. Considering it's been a while since we had a new VR headset, I expected the increase and performance capability to be going up really quickly, like a lot of technology. And I feel like it's been pretty slow.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like VR is in a weird place right now. Like, obviously with Meta and everything that Zuckerberg's kind of pushing in terms of like for the workplace and stuff like that, it feels like they're losing a bit of focus on gaming. Maybe that's a good thing for VR in the long run, but right now it feels, I don't know how many people they're actually going to pull in with that. And yeah, the other thing I will say about the PSVR 2, like, it's a Sony headset. I'm waiting for Sony to kind of give me their exclusive, amazing Sony games. And yes, there's a Horizon title for launch, which I'm kind of intrigued by, but there wasn't even a new trailer for this that we could find. So I'm still waiting to be sold on that. And
not that it should matter. I think some people might have been expecting a Half-Life Alyx console edition that's been rumored for a while, or at least people have rumored it, hoping they would will it into existence at some level. I don't know whether Valve has ever indicated that will happen, but they've occasionally released stuff on consoles before, like Orange Box and other games. So I could see it happening, but to me, you're getting at exclusive VR content, and that's probably why people get PC VR or Steam, because it's the only place to play Half-Life Alyx, which I haven't played it, embarrassingly enough. I bought a new computer to play it. I still haven't played it. So, I mean, we can talk about the hypocrisy of VR, and are we actually as into it as we claim to be? I don't think we are, or anyone is. But I think another barrier to entry, and in terms of straddling PC and console, I can't believe... I'm looking into Valve Index. Using my Quest 2 on PC is not a great experience. Whether it's wired or wireless, it's okay. It's nice to have something that's compatible with PC, but especially I find the wireless desktop confusing, almost at a debug level interface. I don't enjoy it. It works, but it's not great. And I'm surprised Sony has not figured out a way to let you use the PSVR 2 on a computer. If it said you could use it on a PC with any, like VR, with Steam, I feel like they would sell way more of these. And I'm kind of curious. I do not know why that wouldn't happen. Like, what's the big, I guess it's internal software, like how there's the Oculus software on PC, but I can't see that being that hard to do. They must test games out on PC. It seems like a huge missed opportunity, in my opinion, because it's wired anyway. And why not be able to plug that into a PC and expand your library? Obviously, they want an exclusive ecosystem and to build a user base, but if the games are good enough, that's going to happen automatically. So I assume they're breaking even on hardware, but I don't know about that either. We don't have Canadian prices yet. I could see this being $800 in Canada at a minimum. The MetaQuest Pro is $1,500 in the US, and Huck, you were looking up before, 23 or 2,200 in Canada.
24, I think.
24.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, no, 23.
And the stats aren't that much different. It's just ergonomics, really, and that it's AR, not just VR.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Have they even announced if the PSVR 2 has a sort of pass-through thing? I'm not sure if they have.
Oh, no, I'm saying the MetaQuest Pro offers AR development abilities.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like that's
right.
It's one kind of advantage. So I was considering looking into it because I would like a better VR headset for PC, and the Valve Index is 3 years, 4 years almost dated technology. So I'm waiting for something new that's semi-affordable, and I don't know when that's coming.
Well, just one other note. The Quest 3 is rumored to be coming in 2023. Whether that's, again, geared more towards like a standalone experience, or if that's still going to be a great option for playing on PC, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that makes the Quest Pro seem even stranger to me. Like, because we were talking before the show, the specs for the screen are barely better or about the same as the actual resolution per eye on the Quest 2. So you'd have to think on the 3 it's going to be even better. So your Quest 3 is going to be technically superior to your Quest Pro? Yeah. Where are we going with this stuff? It's Huck, you were talking, maybe you want to talk a bit about like Carmack left Meta, which was I hadn't heard that officially.
Yeah, so I think he is still working with them on, VR stuff, but in just like a consultation type role. His main focus now is he started a company to do general AI research. So he's trying to create the singularity himself now, which is great. We shall all bow at the altar of Carmack once he finishes his general AI. And so obviously if he was happy there, he wouldn't have left. So I would say you can infer that he was not being listened to as much as he probably wanted to or should have been, and that is very concerning to me.
Based on what I know about Carmack, his general approach is build technology and users determine the functionality or use cases for it based on what works and what's fun. And Meta seems to be going the opposite direction. They're trying to push people into social, specifically curated social experiments, which no one seems all that interested in. And it does seem like a bit of a failure. And as Sean said, it'll be interesting to see where that goes, or will it be a bigger deal in the future? I guess I'm of the mindset it's never going to be a big deal until I don't know how long it's going to be till we're in a Ready Player One scenario where we live in small spaces and that's what it's used for. But I can't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just a business decision to sort of, like Huck was talking about the Pro 2 and sort of like before the show, like who's paying this much for a Pro 2, especially if it's not really aimed at gamers who are the people that want.
It's not a Pro 2 though, right? This is the first Pro?
Sorry, it's just called the Pro. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
But gamers are the people that would want the cutting edge technology. And this is, like you said, it's about the same as the Quest 2, which is already out and has been out for a couple years. So, who's buying this stuff? And I think they're just hoping that some workplaces get it, brainwashed into thinking that this is going to increase their productivity, and they buy tons of these headsets, and suddenly that's where they're making all their money. But I don't see that happening. Based
on the tech that's inside and packaging up in a nicer way, I think their margins are probably pretty high on it, and it is just some kind of business grab. But who knows? I'm certainly not interested. I was when I saw it released, even with the price. I was like, well, if it's quality is that much better, I'm at a point where I want something like that. But then you dig deeper, and the quality is almost equivalent. So I'm like, I don't need it to be more comfortable. I don't play VR for more than an hour or 2 hours at a time anyway, and comfort is not a big deal to me. So maybe it is specifically designed for people who work in VR all day. I've never met one of these people in my life. I don't know how that could be possible. So everything about this seems strange. It does feel like we're getting to a point where VR, I'm actually questioning, will it be a thing in 5 years? Not where will it be?
It's possible. I was just reading the article that Sean passed around from Push Square that talks about the Meta, whatever they call it, Meta Quest Pro, whatever the hell it's called. Yep. And it does explicitly say this is a corporate product, not designed for gamers, not meant to replace the Quest 2 thing. But then later in the article, they say, other than one piece of software called Horizon Workrooms, which is in partnership with Microsoft, they don't even have any productivity software to show on it. So who are they actually, what was the purpose of actually announcing it, showing it, and then not even saying how you could use it? It seems like literally they're trying to go after Silicon Valley super nerds that will just buy it because they have extra money in their company and think it's cool or something. I don't know. It's a very strange product. It doesn't seem like there's a target market, and I don't know who would buy it. Even even those super nerds, they love stats. And I was telling you guys beforehand, I was on the MetaQuest website, the actual Meta website, and you click tech specs, and it doesn't even give you any tech specs. It's like verbal blurbs of like fluff. It doesn't even tell you the eye resolution straight up. It doesn't even tell you like the power wattage usage or the weight or anything straight up. Like if I click on something that says tech specs, I want specific numbers as a tech guy. Like that's the whole point of those things. So like who are you targeting with
this?
It's
out already. It's not like it's
is it?
It's out. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's even weirder to me.
So strange.
Anyways, maybe we should get back to the Sean, unless you were going to add something specifically to that.
The only other point on the Meta side to make is they are apparently preparing for some major layoffs. There's like huge rumors going around. There's going to be big layoffs this week, which is probably also not a good sign.
I just don't know. Yeah, but what does that have to do with the Meta Pro? Like,
well, I mean, it's just a question of like, are they selling enough of these things? Like, obviously, they had to increase the price of the Quest supposedly because of supply chain stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it just feels like Zuckerberg has this vision that he is trying to force out there, and maybe at some point it'll all click and people will be like, oh wow, he knew what was coming. But right now it feels like one guy is trying to impose this on the world.
Look, we're about 15 years or so since hearing about Google Glasses, VR, PlayStation Home, virtual environments. I've seen kicks at the can at this type of stuff over and over again, and it fails every single time. Nothing has made a compelling case for any of this. The closest is fun VR chat rooms or socializing things that kids use, and it's just an excuse to goof around. It's not productive. The productive landscape is never going to be a thing. What we're doing right now serves every purpose for why you would want this in a business environment. So I guess I don't besmirch people for trying to push us into new eras with this type of technology, but it's going to take some even bigger leaps. And I always question technological exponential growth and when we're going to start hitting those limits as a society. I know everyone's pretty like, well, if we're here now, it always gets faster and faster. I'm always wondering, is it actually, or are we at a point where that's not going to be the case anymore? Certain things do. I don't think every user experience does. So in terms of games, over and over again, it's just regressing back to playing on a screen with a controller. No matter what gimmick happens, no matter where we go, there must be a reason for that. So unless you have a compelling version that's drastically changing that, VR's close. VR is close to that. But it still has barriers, and it's mostly technological. So
I would disagree. I would say VR is not close with the productivity stuff that we're talking about.
Oh, not productivity, no. I mean for games. For video games, it provides a different experience. Like, it's immersive. It's still a thing, like, as immersive as it is, the inputs and interfaces limit it to some degree, like what you can do. And I could see those being the things that bridge the gap. It almost seems like we're not going to get there until you can literally interpret thought. I don't know if or when that will ever happen, but that's when VR becomes the standard.
Neuralink, baby.
But isn't that like, these controllers are still the limiting aspects?
Yeah.
Even to the best you can come up with that stuff, or like strafing and getting sick when you do this stuff. Like, we're not there yet. It's cool. Like we've always compared it to, it feels like amusement park rides you can play at home, which is great. And it's fun. People like it, but I also don't think the quality level of those experiences is lining up with the cost at this point.
Yeah. I find it so strange. Like, I still want to talk about the productivity aspect. Like, why are you... I would think if you wanted to get adoption of this thing as a productivity tool, why would you not try to create the cheapest possible version that is like the bare minimum you need. And for me, if I'm thinking about, okay, if I'm wearing a VR headset, and I would say VR is shit, like for productivity. I think the AR aspect they're going after makes more sense, because in theory, if you could market it to teams that are like, okay, no matter what, you're going to need a keyboard to input stuff. But if you can say, I'm going to have basically a fake keyboard with no computer, and then in my goggles, I basically pull out like a sheet of paper that looks like a keyboard. The headset can see the keyboard I'm typing on, recognizes what I actually press. So the cost of the keyboard is zero or close to zero. You just have the headset. You don't need monitors anymore. You can put up as many monitors as you want. I don't need to have 4 monitors purchased for $1,000 each and a super crazy computer that can drive it. I have one AR headset, a piece of paper that looks like a keyboard that I type on, and then I can have as big of a workspace monitor as I want. That seems like a valid use case for productivity for this type of tool. But like, I don't want to go into a virtual reality AR where I see everyone's avatars and try to talk to them when they don't have any facial expressions. Like, why would I not just talk to you guys over Zoom? Like, I could see your facial expressions. I could tell that you think I'm crazy, and then I could back off.
That is one of the things, though, like with the Quest Pro, that I think they added. Like, the camera is better, and I can't remember exactly how they put it, but it's something about the camera that allows for more like facial capture, I think, to maybe translate to an avatar in virtual space at some point. I don't know if they actually have the software doing that yet, but that's... I'm
not buying that. I'm not buying that. You have this big clunky thing over your face? No way.
Well, if LA Noire can't capture it in fully 3D models and face capture animations, I don't think this little shitty camera in a Quest is going to do it too well either. I guess I should not be surprised. VR will be a game changer and valuable productivity, real life tool when Apple decides to enter the fray. But it was exactly like the idea of, the cliche thing with Steve Jobs and styluses versus fingers. When there are real world practical applications, I feel like Apple will get there first. And if they're not releasing anything, we are not there yet. I don't know if Apple will ever release anything for it.
I don't know. Not yet. I have a few actual things to talk about the Quest or the VR2 that I think were kind of interesting. I think the tech and the rendering stuff that's going to be done with like the per eye tracking that they have inside the headset is going to be really cool. Apparently the Quest Pro has this as well. But it allows you to actually like see where the people or know where the people are looking and make that higher resolution and kind of, blur out the rest and render the rest at lower resolution, which I think is really cool. And that's how they get the higher frame rates. So that I'm really interested in. And then the other thing I found interesting from a business aspect is in a bunch of regions, you can only pre-order it through the PlayStation Store. That's it. You cannot order it through like Best Buy or whatever. And then
but the US is one of those regions, which I was surprised about.
Yeah, and the UK, which was also a huge region. So very interesting that Sony is trying to, get as much of that initial payola straight up as possible.
And that is, those pre-orders start November 15th. US, UK, France, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. I don't know if that means we're not going to have access to initial pre-orders in Canada.
I'm not sure. That way. Yeah. I think usually Canada is separate when they make those lists like that.
Yeah, I thought I saw something that mentioned like other regions will be announced separately or something, but it didn't seem like we weren't part of the launch. I can't remember where I saw it.
On the blog post, I think I said it that you can purchase them from actual retailers at a later date or on launch or something like that. I think that's what it said on the blog post.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Later or something, but
in other markets, it will be sold at participating retailers.
The other weird thing to me was the 2 bundles. For $50 more, you get the Horizon game. Now, I guess I always envisioned that being a smaller game that would cost around $50. And I don't see that much incentive for the bundle unless you're getting a bit of a deal, which makes me think these games or this game could be around a full price or $80 game, which is, I mean, we don't know what it is yet, but what we've seen did not seem like much. So, I don't know. I was kind of surprised by that rather than just selling the system with, if it's going to, unless it's a really expensive game, which I would be shocked if that game was $80 retail value. Or Canada is $60 American. But it seems like that's the price. And you get a $10 discount on that game by purchasing it as a bundle, which doesn't seem all that enticing.
I imagine they have to do that in order to give the games like validity and make them appear to be worth worth paying for the PSVR 2, because $500 or $550 is not cheap, or $600 if you get the bundle.
Yeah, I guess we should touch on some of the other games that were announced. So the one I already mentioned, the Dark Pictures Switchback VR, an on-rail shooter on a roller coaster, looks okay. Looks very similar to Rush of Blood. I don't have many thoughts about it. Crossfire Sierra Squad, which doesn't look all that exciting. It looks like just another competitive shooter in VR, maybe slightly better than previous versions of this type of game. I don't know if this has already been released on PC or not. I've never heard of that game. The Light Brigade, a single-player roguelike experience, which graphically did not seem all that impressive. And Cities VR, which is on Oculus. Hello Neighbor, and Pistol Whip coming. I'm not going to go over every game, but did any of these games look good to you guys? Most of them, I feel like, are on other VR platforms already.
Yep, they all look the same. Like, not changed from other platforms.
Yeah, I guess maybe the selling point is like, hey, now you're going to get the highest resolution, best version of this game. But yeah, I mean, so far the only one I really care about is Horizon. So it's not the best.
So I asked you a question at the beginning of this, and you've not answered it. Are you going to buy or pre-order the PSVR 2?
I will not be pre-ordering, but if it's available, as of right now, I would say I will probably buy it. But I could be swayed one way or the other still.
Definitely not.
Considering how much I play my other VR stuff, I have to pre-order this thing. I got to convince myself. I've got to make it happen. VR Force Feed needs to continue, no matter how much money it costs me.
Definitely.
Continue on.
The PC thing you were talking about, the PC link or whatever, I mean, it could happen still. It is an interesting point. I don't know. Maybe.
I guess I don't know the specifics of the connector. PSVR 1, they really iterated, I guess, just once on the connections. It was 4 cables initially, and not really a standard interface, which you might need for PC support. So I don't know if they've actually addressed that, but you obviously don't need a camera anymore. It used to depend on a camera that was compatible with PlayStation for tracking. So I'm kind of surprised they haven't announced that. It could happen, but I think they would have said if that was the case already, or if it was even possible. They'd say it's something we're looking into for the future.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, PSVR coming soon. Sooner than I thought, to be honest. If it wasn't coming out this holiday, I thought it would probably get pushed till holiday 2023. So February, everything seems to be pushing into the month of February. So lots of stuff coming out then, which also seems like a bad decision.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, there are some big games coming out, so probably not the best time to launch.
Yeah, very strange. Very strange. All right, let's get into what we played. Birthday Boy, start us off.
All right, I'm going to mention Ghost Song, which just arrived on Game Pass this week. It's a Humble game, so I assume you also got it from the Humble subscription. Frank?
Humble Choice, Humble app. If you're a subscriber to that, I downloaded on there and tried it.
Yeah, so and we did talk about this at some point during one of the showcases or something, but it is a Metroidvania. I would say, falling very close to the Metroid-like side of a Metroidvania. Like, it looks and feels like Metroid in a lot of ways. At least, I would say in the realm of like Axiom Verge or something. My initial thought playing this game was it's another Metroidvania that's kind of pushing me away because of Souls-like elements. Although I have to say, I kind of got pulled back to it a couple of times, and I've probably put, probably at least 3 hours into it at this point, and I'm kind of enjoying it. I kind of got past some of the initial barriers. I still do feel like there's something's going to happen at some point, and I'm going to get frustrated, and I probably won't finish this thing. But it's more exploration based than I thought it would be, which I like. I'll mention. So when you die, your max health starts to degrade, and so over time you have to eventually repair yourself to bring your max health back up again, which that's one of those kind of Souls-like feeling things that I don't love. Boss fights are weird. Like, they just kind of, it's almost like what they did with Axiom Verge 2. You just kind of stumble across bosses, and I feel like you can skip past some of them if you don't want to actually fight them. But so far, they really don't have attack patterns or anything. They just kind of come at you and attack over and over again. It's kind of dull. So I wasn't that impressed with that. But yeah, still kind of liking it. What did you think, Frank?
I played it very briefly. My initial experience was not great, especially the Souls-like mechanic. I died 4 times and felt like I was retreading a lot of areas to go back and basically fail again. And I do not like when games introduce economies that you do not use in the first 40 minutes or an hour. Like, I'm gathering all these things and I have no idea what they're used for. Just give me something else, or don't have them spawn. Like, I'm wondering what the relevance is. Even replaying God of War 2018, it's giving me all this stuff that I cannot use until 2 hours into the game. Just give me something else, or find a way to convert it later on. I really don't like being given things that I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. I think that's bad design in general. But I like the world. I did like the idea of the gun overheating to build up melee attacks.
That was cool,
so
yeah.
If you overheat your barrel and then you hit someone with it, it does more damage. So I think that's a neat idea. I'm curious to see where that goes. The art style I like. Might be more of a grower than a shower on an initial play, but it's okay. The jumping, still getting used to. There was a section I got to where it was like jumping on these narrow platforms, and I had to redo that like 4 times only to get to something I can't even do yet. So I know we complained about Metroid Dread locking you in too much. This one feels like it opens exploration to a fault, where especially when I die, I lose everything. And like, I don't know, there's a weird balance there. I don't think it's hitting the sweet spot from a design perspective, and could have benefited from a little bit of leading the player in the initial section. I'm not saying like, tell me exactly what to do, but tell me a general direction to go in.
Yeah. I feel like, so a couple other things that are Souls-like, or at least in my mind are, like you said, Frank, it feels like you kind of move a bit slow. The jump is a little clunky. Like Souls-like games, they start you off and you feel slow, you feel underpowered. I don't know. I don't love that.
It's interesting because I was just going to ask, does it feel clunky when you play it? Because the videos I've watched all make it look like clunky, a little slow paced. And I'm just wondering if that translates, or like if that was just the videos.
It's not full. I was worried about the same thing. It's not full clunk to me. Like it's pretty good. What was the other 9 Years in Shadows? Is that what that game was called? Or not?
9 Years of Shadows? Something like that, yeah.
No, that felt really tight to me when I played it. Moonscars was slightly lower than that, but still pretty good. This game is a little lower than that or worse on the clunk meter, but still not bad. It's pretty decent. The jump is a little. I assume you're going to get ways to move faster at some point. That's the biggest barrier to entry.
Yeah, I was just going to say the thing that gave me a bit of hope is I got a dash mechanic, and then things started to feel better. So I'm like, okay, the more stuff I gain, the better this will feel, which is just annoying because like, why frustrate people out of the gate? But the other thing I was going to say is there's one of the first enemies you fight just destroys you right away, and it's like this massive bullet sponge, and you're like, what the hell? They don't explain anything, but yeah, it's better to avoid that guy, power up a bit, and then come back later. So,
but I mean, I got to one of those enemies and could defeat them just because I got to a position where I could avoid them, and so I didn't get a clear message like you shouldn't be fighting this enemy yet. Because I could in other places and succeed. I just wish the game was. It's clearly leaning towards discovery and experience more than telling the player what to do. And at this point, I'm not liking that about it. I want a little more guidance to start.
Yeah,
but it's pretty good. I would say.
I think
better than I thought it was going to be based on what I initially saw.
I think the reviews were pretty.
I'm looking at Metacritic. It's a little limited. The PC version is at an 88, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I would say that's high.
And actually, for PlayStation 5, there's only two, 90 and 65. I think PlayStation Universe is pretty reputable. It's a 90, but it's different. I'm not going to write it off, but it's... I feel like I'd have to play it a few more hours to really get into it, but it has potential.
Yeah, so that's Ghost Song.
Huck?
So I dabbled in a couple games, nothing too crazy. The first one I dabbled in was Valkyrie Elysium, which I think came out September 23rd, so I guess about a month ago.
Yeah, and this is a Square Enix game that has gotten not great reviews.
Okay, so my first impressions, so I've only played for 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes. My first impression is that the game, so I did kind of the tutorial and then a little bit more of the first area. And the game visually feels a little PS2, or maybe not PS2, that's maybe being a little too rough, maybe PS3. It's kind of like open areas, but still linear, and they don't contain very much. It's kind of like grass with like hills on the outside and cliffs on the other side. And you get 3-4 enemies every kind of monster closet that happens. But I am liking the combat. So the combat is you basically have combos, but you also have they call them divine arts, which is sort of like magic, I guess. And right now I have one divine art, which is an electricity kind of attack. But then you also get your Valkyries, I believe is what they're called. And it's kind of like heroes you can summon into battle. So I have a frost hero and a lightning hero, and you can use them in environmental puzzles as well. So there's cases where there's like a gap. You need to summon in the frost person to sort of make a bridge for you by freezing, I guess, moisture in the air. I don't know. It's not totally clear.
Feels like a puzzle solving in Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe?
Maybe.
Like extra characters.
Yeah.
The environment.
Yes. But overall, I like that. And then when you summon in a person, so like the frost or lightning, depending on which one you sort of activated last, your weapon also takes on that elemental ability, and the enemies do have different elemental weaknesses. So you can, you hit them, you take off more damage. You can also stumble them. Is it called stumbling? I don't
Stagger?
know. Whatever it is. You stagger them, whatever they call it. I can't remember. But you stagger them, and then as their stagger meter is beating down, you can actually, they call it immobilize them. So you kind of hit them with another attack in that thing, and then it resets the stagger meter so you can hit them more. So if you time it right before you reuse your like divine art magic on enemy, you can kind of increase the amount of time you can do massive damage on them. So far I'm kind of liking the combat, and it's nothing crazy, it's nothing mind-blowing. It's pretty straightforward in terms of like other games that have done this before. But I was enjoying it. There's little collectible things to find. You pick up these like gems in the world. I think there's like 4 or 5 different colors, and that's what you use to upgrade your stats and your equipment. Not equipment. Equipment. Equipment, stats, and your different moves. So you can kind of unlock a double jump and like other types of moves like that. Pretty early on, actually. And yeah, so I mean, it seems pretty fun so far, but I haven't really gotten into it enough. So we'll see if it continues. I haven't read any reviews, but if people are shitting on it, then I'm sure it kind of plateaus early.
A little divisive. Some people seem to really like it, and I think, like you're saying, appreciate the combat at some level. Others are just seem really unimpressed with it. So it's Metacritic's at around a 65.
Okay. I mean, that's not great, but it's not horrible.
It's pretty divided.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to play it more and see where it goes, if it goes anywhere.
Where's it going? It goes
Who
somewhere.
knows? Thor, maybe. Or Odin, whoever the god is, I can't remember. Odin, I think.
I finished up one game. I beat Cult of the Lamb and did everything, 100%ed it on Steam, which there was a few challenging achievements, but I really liked Cult of the Lamb. It was a nice, accessible, easier combat, roguelike, shorter cycles, and the construction management elements of your cult and managing the members of your cult and your like where it's located, your base, I guess, for lack of a better word. I thought that was pretty fun. I got into it. I like simple construction management games like Viva Pinata and others, and I'm really not into the extremely complicated ones. So it was a nice balance of doing combat, getting the resources to bring back and do construction management ideas. And I really liked that loop of doing one followed by the other. And I found them both compelling, and they complemented each other pretty well. So overall, really good game. Will probably be towards the bottom half of my top 10 list this year, but really good.
Cool. How long did it take you to just kind of beat the main?
It came towards the end of everything for me. There was one annoying part where to fight the final boss, you had to have 20 members in your cult, and every time you went back to fight it, you still had to have 20. So once I unlocked it once, I thought, okay, I can do this over and over again. And I had to, so I got rid of a bunch of people or sacrifice them. You can do stuff like that. And then I'm like, oh, you can't do the boss anymore. So I had to rebuild up my cult. That was a little annoying, but it took me like 24 hours, I think, something like that. But I've heard reports you can do it much faster than that if you want.
Cool.
But I enjoyed, I was enjoying my time. I wasn't trying to rush through it necessarily and get it done. I was having fun with both aspects of the game. Recommend.
Cool. Yeah, I played like 15 minutes of it, so I can't say anything at this point, but I'm going to check it out. I have another game I'll mention. I played and finished a fairly short game called The Looker.
Oh,
did we talk about this on the show? I think we maybe talked outside of the show, but it's like a parody of The Witness. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the artwork for it, you'll immediately see it looks like The Witness. Obviously, the title is kind of a reference.
I think there was some controversy around that.
Yeah, but
It mentions it right in the trailer. It's like, it says, this is not the people behind The Witness kind of thing.
Yeah. But it has some funny stuff in it. But it also has some kind of cool, clever puzzles of its own. But the main mechanic, so like, The Witness, I think this is kind of like one set of puzzles that was in The Witness. And actually, I went back and started replaying The Witness. So I only saw one set of puzzles that used this so far. But basically, you're drawing on the screen through mazes, and they have like a million different ways they use that. Not the best game to play on the Steam Deck, because you can't, like, the ideal thing would be to just draw right on the screen, but the touch screen is a little off sometimes, so it can get annoying. So I mostly was using like the right, the touchpad thing to draw with, which isn't always the best. But yeah, I had a pretty good time with it, and it's free. So hey, check it out. It's definitely worth checking out if you're kind of into The Witness or similar games like that.
So there's no in-game purchases or anything like that? It's just free?
Just free. Maybe because they knew.
I think it was about being sued, or
maybe.
I don't know if they ever charged for it, but it is free on Steam right now.
One other game I just quickly, very, very quickly, half asleep played was called Diofield Chronicles, which is a sort of like, so I thought it was a turn-based strategy game, but it's less turn-based. It's kind of more real-time strategy, where you kind of have a team. So I only did one battle, so I didn't really play very much. But you have a team of 3, and you kind of tell them where to go and who to attack, and then they walk there and then just keep attacking until you tell them something else. So it's definitely more real-time than, a turn-based tactical game. So overall, it was fine, what I played.
But it almost seems like it's real-time but limited units. Right, like a lot of turn-based stuff, you have lots of units you can manipulate. This is real-time, but like very few units.
Yeah. So instead of like a game like StarCraft, where you can like craft a ton of the guys and then just swarm people, this you only have like a certain number of heroes. I don't know if there's a limit. I haven't really looked up on this game at all. I don't know how many you can get in a battle. Maybe it's just 3 or 4, and it's more like, in a lot of these games, like, Shining Force and Fire Emblem and stuff, you kind of have a pretty large team on the field. It's kind of like 10 to 12 people or something like that. But this game, it seems like it's going to be less than that. It kind of more reminded me almost like a Valkyrie Chronicles. What was that game? Valkyria Chronicles, where it's more like there's like real-time elements built into the strategy part as well. But obviously, this is all real time, all at the same time. So I don't know how I feel about it. It's a little clunky, like looking, and it's also a little basic art style. So nothing is wowing me from like a art standpoint. And the story, I was half asleep, so I was just skipping it.
I like the look of the effects and stuff, like the neon colors in contrast to the world. And I think it is interesting to do like most tactics RPGs are turn-based. So the idea of a real-time tactics RPG sounds kind of compelling, but I mean, on Steam, it's mostly negative recent reviews and mixed overall. So
not great. Yeah. Anyways, I just thought I'd give it a try. Luckily,
Sean,
the library.
For you?
Yes, he is.
With his eye like half open.
Yes.
Sean, are you there?
Okay. Sean is MIA.
Well, okay, I'll continue and say I've been playing Vampire Survivors, still alive.
So have I. Sean's back.
What happened?
Not sure, but
yes.
Vampire Survivors, I'm not playing as much as I was, but I still do runs daily. Maybe a couple times daily, just trying to finish and get every achievement in the game. I'm at a point where I'm having to replay some stuff, and I'm not quite sure what to do for the first time, but still really like it. Still extremely jealous of this game that someone came up with something so simple that is so much fun, so cheap, so good. I don't think I've ever been more jealous of a video game in my life.
Yeah, do you there was some good discussion on the Discord and maybe in the YouTube comments as well, but some people were mentioning the genre of this type of game is officially bullet heaven is what they're calling it instead of bullet hell.
Well, I didn't see that. I thought, isn't the genre, wouldn't it be more related to, I mean, that could be a subgenre for this game. But the single analog aspect, I wouldn't think all bullet heavens are single analog stick, are they?
Apparently. I mean, I had a quick look. There are a few of them out there. Somebody recommended one.
I would think that instead of like a clicker, this would be called like a mover. You just like move your guy around. You know, that's all you do.
It's true. Yeah.
One stick games or something like that. Huck, you said you played it some more? Are you?
Yeah, so I've done quite a few runs now. I don't love it as much as you love it. So I find that every run kind of feels similar to me. I'm not seeing the variety. They definitely hit that sweet spot that like Rogue Legacy hit, where you finish the run, it ends pretty quickly, so you can't really see like how much money you have. And then it takes you back to the start screen where you can't see how much money you have. So then you have to hit start, enter the game again, and then you get to see how much money and choose your upgrades and then choose if you want to start another run. So it definitely, like, I think just that aspect of having to click the start button one more time almost like commits you to going again. Because then once you see your money and once you buy something, you want to try it out or whatnot. And I feel like that is how you should do a game like this, where you're just trying to entice people to keep coming back.
That could be to the developers' slot machine
gambling. Yeah,
I think you can see the money on the start screen though.
Can you? Okay, maybe you can. The only thing is, like, it's to the point where I've unlocked, I think 10 characters, and I think I'm on the 3rd stage. I don't know how many stages there are, but there's kind of a point where there's certain items I like more than others, and I'm finding that if I don't get those items near the beginning or kind of like, you know, decently through the run, then I can't really, I don't really feel like it was worth it. It was worth my time. So like, I'm really big into the garlic, which kind of gives you a ring of, you know, damage around you kind of thing. And you can upgrade that to be longer, wider and more damage. But, you know, depending on the character you start with, there are some characters that give you like a vast differently experience, but overall I find they're not that different. Like there is one character that is like a clerk or something like that, a cleric, sorry. And, she starts off with like a really big, super big range of damage. I was like, this is great. But then after, like, I don't know, you get a couple upgrades, it disappears. And then they actually are like smaller than normal. So I'm like, what is the point of this character? This doesn't really seem to make sense. So I don't know how I feel about it. And I don't really, I'm to the point now where, like, yes, it's fun to like see numbers go up and to see things die and, you know, get all the gems and stuff, but I don't really know why I'm doing it. And I find that now I'm going back to maps and I'm literally just like, as soon as I open the map, or as soon as I hit enter a new stage, I open the map, I see where the things are on the map, and then immediately just start heading towards those, because I know that's just how I get to the next area. So whereas before I was more just like mindlessly exploring, and before I had unlocked the map thing, and maybe that was more fun, it was less directed. I don't know, like, how are you playing it now that you're kind of like past, you know, the initial...
Trying to unlock everything. The weapon evolutions is a big part for me. So by combining certain weapons with passives or abilities, you evolve and level up weapons into new weapons. And I've only got one or maybe two of those left to do. I find that discovery element pretty fun. And... I've got about 20, maybe 20 achievements left. So at this point, it's just trying to do everything in the game, and I'm getting pretty close, I think. And it is starting. I see what you're saying about, every run starts to become very similar, and I've tried every weapon at this point. I've tried multiple combinations. So it feels like, for a $5 game, I've put a lot of time into it. So I think I'm reaching my end with it, and I've still continuously enjoyed my time.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy. I'll probably do, go back and do a run a day, or maybe like a couple runs a day. But I think I'm running out of gas on this one, and I think it's gonna result in me uninstalling it shortly without beating it, quote unquote.
Yikes!
How much space does this thing take? Like, like 100 megs or something. Chill.
I gotta organize. I have a very organized Steam list, Frank. I gotta get that out of my top priority playlist. Good. Bye bye.
If you uninstall it, it still shows up on your most recently played.
I will play more things to get it off of there, though.
Do that and keep it installed,
You
dude.
would not like my Steam library at all.
Well, I don't have to have yours. I've got mine.
It's true. We should say also Vampire Survivors coming to consoles next week, including on Xbox Game Pass. Frank might be playing it all over again.
I think so.
I love that game, or this game. Well, I started God of War again. I'm playing it on PC. I was like, I'm going to try and beat it again before the new one comes out. The same thing I always do, and then regret doing it. But I got it. I got to play God of War again. And I'm trying to...
You're going to ruin the new game for you
trying to
again.
Understand the subtlety of the combat that maybe I never appreciated. And I still really like the game. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It looks awesome on PC. But I did not realize God of War does not come out on a Friday, or God of War Ragnarok. It comes out on a Wednesday. There is no chance I'm finishing this game before Wednesday. And based on the very limited stuff I've seen, obviously ridiculously good reviews for Ragnarok, I've just seen snippets that the combat is so much better. I'm kind of worried once I play Ragnarok, it's going to be tough to come back to this and eventually finish it off. But that's what I'm kind of hoping for that. I feel like the combat could certainly be improved in the new one. And I am pretty much as excited as I've ever been for a game. There's so much hype, and it seems to be living up to the hype in every review score I see. So, going to be huge.
What's its Metacritic sitting at right now? I was hearing that it was getting 90s and stuff.
It was 94 last I checked.
Wow, that's extremely high.
Still at 94.
Wow. Okay, that's a purchase.
Yeah, a lot of perfect.
I mean, not a game journalist bias, though. Like, who knows? Who knows?
Is it? I don't think it is. This feels... The lowest score is an 8 out of 10. Out of every website. That's pretty hard to do. Mm-hmm. And if there's any game I think they would be going after, it's this game. Like, people would be looking for... Yeah, sure. It was the same thing with, like... Sony's focus on AAA, is it a problem? Apparently not, and I think people would be looking for reasons to dislike this game, and they can't. It's got to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I took Friday off to play this game, so, that never happens.
Well, I am very excited. I think it's going to take me a while to beat it, though. I'm pretty busy lately. I do not have a lot of time for games. All right, anyone played anything else?
Nope.
I guess I forgot. I'll briefly mention Signalis, which came out on
Game Pass.
Xbox Game Pass, and it's on the Humble Choice as well. That's where I tried it for free. And it's a top-down survival horror game, really inspired by the first Resident Evil, in a sci-fi interface user experience. Reminds me a lot of Metal Gear Solid 1. It feels like if you took Metal Gear Solid 1, mashed it up with Resident Evil, you would get this game. I guess in a lot of ways, Metal Gear Solid controlled quite a bit like Resident Evil to some degree on PlayStation 1. It's got a pixel art style, which I like, and some of the cutscenes remind me of other Kojima games like Snatcher and Policenauts, stuff like that. I like the vibe. I say I love the vibe. It's a bit of a slow burn getting into it, though, and a lot of like backtracking and moving pretty slowly between rooms. Not having a ton of fun, but liking the world and the like that. Once I've just started shooting, that feels pretty good, but I've only killed one thing. Obviously, I want to kill more. Let me kill.
Yes.
So we'll see how that evolves. You kill pretty early in the first Resident Evil, and I think you have to learn to conserve ammo. But this game has potential. But it didn't hook me necessarily. I am not hooked.
I installed it.
Yeah, I have heard good things, so gotta check it out too.
But the world is really cool. The idea is like an indie level survival horror, like a classic PlayStation 1 game. I really like the idea. Metacritic's around 80 overall, I'd say. So worth checking out, especially if the idea of something like the original Resident Evil calls to you.
I got to get back to A Plague Tale Requiem. Fell off my radar.
All right, so next week, hopefully, Sean, he's got a whole day off to play God of War Ragnarok. He might get further than me. He might only play an hour. I could see that happening as well.
Could happen. I mean, the kids are off, so
yeah. I don't think you're playing at all, now. I don't think you're playing at all
until Sunday. But I think we'll all probably try it. I know I will have tried it. I don't think I'll have beaten it. You can check us out video-wise on youtube.com/GameJunk. Sean mentioned the Discord. There are Discord links in there if you're interested in joining any of these conversations offline. And on Twitter, Sean is FilmJunk. Give him a birthday follow. And Huck is My Angry Commute and Equilibrium Sis. So, big week. Finally, something huge, absolutely enormous to talk about in the video game world. God of War Ragnarok. Stay tuned. See you next week. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.